we've been waiting for years for a Bitcoin ETF to get approved, and thus far we have not seen an approval. So what do you think is going to be different this time, if at all?
Well, listen, the crypto ETF would certainly be the jewel in crypto's crown, but I don't think that we're going to see an approval of an ETF anytime soon. Later today, Chairman Gary Gensler of the SEC is giving a speech at the Aspen Institute Security Forum, where he's indicated that he's going to lay out his plan for regulating crypto. I think that Gary Gensler is very passionate about consumer protection and wants to see more robust regulation of the underlying spot market for crypto. And I don't imagine that he's going to approve an ETF until we see some sort of regulatory regime in place. I could be wrong, but that is my guess.
And so, Kristen, what do you think that regulatory regime looks like? And perhaps most importantly, is there a regulatory regime that you could put in place that doesn't undermine the very premise, if you will, of some of these cryptocurrencies and the anonymity and other elements of it that are included?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there is a regulatory regime that we could put in place that takes bits and pieces and certain concepts from securities laws, from commodities laws, piece it together into a way that makes sense for crypto. At the Blockchain Association, I think we care a lot about a lot of the same common goals that Gary Gensler has. We want legal certainty. We want to have strong markets that are filled with integrity. We want to have good investor and consumer protection. These are all things that we care very deeply about, and we have met with the chairman. We are in the process of compiling ideas for him and working very hard within our membership because we think if we actually have the right kind of regulation, that's going to be best for the long term in the marketplace here in the United States. And so we think there's a way to get it right. And we're very excited that Chairman Gensler is open to engaging with us and having a dialogue about this.
Kristen, one of the big issues is that potentially you could regulate the way we've regulated a lot of securities in the United States around know your customer and all sorts of. So there's two issues. There's the security if you get to the ETF part, but then there's the actual cryptocurrencies themselves. But where I was going to go with this, the cryptocurrencies themselves, because I think that Gary Gensler won't even take on the securities piece of it until some of the other underlying issues are resolved. And so the question is, when you're living in a world where you can have a private wallet, which is different than using a Coinbase or something else, does that make this almost impossible? Meaning almost impossible
to really
regulate?
No, I don't think so. I think there's separate issues. I mean, issues around anti-money laundering policy, where you have your know your customer requirements, are really the purview of the Treasury Department. The SEC cares about disclosure of information to investors. And so I think that those are two separate issues. When it comes to the anti-money laundering policy, it's really important that we give the regulatory technology time to develop, because I do think there are some innovative ways where you can know that you're transacting with a worthy party, a party that isn't on any of the OFAC lists, without necessarily having to know all of the details about who you're transacting with. So there's a lot of great technologies that are under development. And I think over time that we will find a solution that meets law enforcement needs without stifling the technology.